My name is Ashish Narudkar, and I'm a DevOps person working in this field for the last 7 years. So even before the Agile was even started. So I just wanted to get a quick feedback from you people. Are you able to hear me, and can you see my screen? You can check your response. You can type your responses in your chat windows. So I guess we are all here to learn more about DevOps. What DevOps is, what's this buzzword that's going on these days. Each and every company is trying to replace their managers with a very fast team that's called a DevOps team that can handle and automate all this stuff. But where did it all start? And will the SDLC that we have learned during our college days, right, the software development model, will it be replaced completely by DevOps? Okay, so this seminar is about it. I'll also have a small hands-on exercise about showing you how it can benefit the way people do software development these days. Well, this is going to be a seminar of 1 hour. We'll try to wind up the slides in 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, and then I'll jump back to your questions. So meanwhile, while taking up the slides, if you have any of the queries, any questions that pop up in your head, don't keep up your questions to yourself. You can type in your chat windows. Whenever I get time, wherever there is a logical break in between, I should be able to take up your questions. If not, we can answer, take up all the questions and answer all of them at the end of the seminar. Okay, let's start off with that. So during this session today, you'll be able to understand why DevOps, okay, what's the requirement of it in the first place, and why are people so crazy about it that many companies are adopting DevOps these days, and it's on rise. The number of jobs that are increasing with DevOps are in huge boom this year, especially in 2015. So the number of jobs openings that are there for DevOps people have been on a great rise. So what is DevOps? We'll be understanding about it. What are the processes that are being implemented in it? And how do we do a swift transition between the different processes, that is, from a company which is not on DevOps to bring it on DevOps, what has to be done? Okay. We'll also be looking into different statistics from Rackspace this year regarding the survey that has been conducted on DevOps. We'll be also looking into what are the career opportunities and different roles that you can work on. So this is a vast field. It's not that one single DevOps engineer can handle everything. Well, there are people who can do that, but still, to get yourself a bigger picture of where you can fit yourself, where you can use your skills in the industry, you should have a fair idea about it. Okay, and at last, we'll be also looking into how to implement all of these concepts into your organizations and how your organization can benefit from it. So this is today's agenda. Let's start up with the first topic: why DevOps? Well, everyone requires quality, speed, efficiency, but no one requires cost. That's the primary motto. Companies work for their own profits, their stakeholders' profits. So when you talk of any software that has to be developed, you're also talking of man-force, which is required, and the number of man-hours that are taken up. So that costs. Let's consider the traditional SDLC scenario where every phase of development is scheduled after one another. So requirement analysis, then you design it, then you document it, then you start developing it, and after that you start testing it. So unless and until development is complete, you cannot test it, right? So DevOps tries to remove this problem. Agility, when it was first implemented to software development, it was only implemented at the managerial level, how to manage the softwares. Then it started percolating down to the level where we started developing the software piece by piece using the agile methodologies. But the problem was, this was only limited to people and development. When people started facing problems about the infrastructure-wise, that infrastructure cannot change at the pace at which your code changes. testing cannot happen as fast as people are changing the development. So along with the continuously changing code base, if you can handle testing at the same pace, that would be really nice, instead of waiting for a complete block to be developed and then tested. So for this continuous stream to be possible, DevOps was introduced. So as you might notice, there are two different sections to it. One is development, another one is the infrastructure-wise or the operations section. That's why it's called DevOps. Okay, so for this primary requirements, these requirements comes in later on. For the primary requirements, there is quality, speed, and efficiency that has to be there. So quality of product should be good, speed of development should be nice, it should be efficient, you should be able to do it again and again without even a single manual intervention, and the cost should be lowered. Of course, if you can save time and it is efficient, it's speedy, you are definitely going to save on cost. But the two sides of the coin, the developers who are continuously making the changes based on the business requirements, and on the second side, the infrastructure guys, the system admins, the operations team, which is working with you, they try to resist the changes. And that's a big question, why? See, the problem here is, if something goes wrong on your developer boxes, it's okay. You can fix it. You can retest it, right? It's nothing that on production something is going to hamper. Your clients are not going to be hampered because of it. But on the other side, if the live machine, that means the machine on which your post is hosted, or the production systems, the websites that you see like Google, Flipkart, Amazon, those are all production systems. If any of the configuration on the production systems is misconfigured or it goes down, your real clients are hampered. That's the only reason why ops people are so much pessimistic about making continuous changes. So they formed a team. They thought about these people who started the DevOps almost 6 years back in 2009. There were a series of papers being written from the guys at Twitter. Okay, and then they evolved the term DevOps, and then all of these things started. So a team was formed. The team who knows about system architecture, about the coding. They also know about the production systems, the machines, and how the code flows from development environment to operations. So see, if testing part can be added just above the development layer instead of after it, that means what I mean to say is, one feature is developed, test it. Another feature is developed, again test it. Third feature is developed, keep on testing it. And all the three features, when they are incrementally developed, according to the agile methodologies, you should be able to incrementally test it. You should also be able to build it in incremental fashion. And that has to be done automatically. So these people, the DevOps guys, they understood how the code flows between the machines, between the developers, from the development environment through different stages to the production. And they tried to automate that. Even the configuration level automation was done and achieved using softwares like Puppet and Chef. So when that happens, these people know of every single chunk in your development environment. Okay, either it would be automation testing, or it would be manual testing, it would be server deployments, it would be configuration replication, or bringing the environments closer to development systems, setting up the development boxes, architecture-wise changes in the code label blocks, code optimizations. So these people know a bit of each and everything. Okay, so if you have a zeal for automation, if you like to innovate, if you like to customize the solutions to better fit your organization, you are at the right place. You should be choosing the DevOps field. So what happens currently? If the software has been produced, it goes to live. If something goes wrong, if DevOps is not there in that case, so if something goes wrong, the general tendency in organizations is, this is not my fault. So if something goes wrong on the production guy says that you gave me the quality configurations, maybe. Okay, developer says it was working on my machine, it's not working on live, it's your fault. So everyone tries to blame one another. With DevOps, it's a culture that stands on three different pillars. The pillars are Very first, there's culture. Then you need to set up the structure right. That means the team hierarchy should be right. And at the very last comes tooling, to choose proper automation tools. If there are no tools, it's still okay. You can still write your own scripts in whatever language you choose. You can do some automation, and that will also be called as perfect DevOps. If it works for you, it's okay. If you don't want to code it from the scratch, you can use the systems that are already present on the market and you can use it. And what happens when automation is not done and there is no proper communication between the teams? 30% of the projects, most of the time, are delivered late. Okay, that happens with majority of the products. I have seen many projects go beyond the release deadline. So it was supposed to be released on 31st July, now it's going to be released on August or September or October. That generally happens. Okay, and to reduce this, DevOps can help you with that. So with traditional SDLC, when it is a phase-by-phase system, your teams would be sitting idle. You will have to juggle the teams between different projects. The team has to wait for the earlier phase to be complete. And since you're waiting on something, it's expensive. You're wasting your resources, right? That's the traditional SDLC concept. But when it comes to DevOps, we do everything in parallel. See, with agile methodologies, we can always chunk down the things into sprints. Then the sprints, that means small goals. Sprints are actually small goals that can be achieved over a fairly smaller amount of time, like a week or 2 weeks, or maximum 3 or 4 weeks, not more than that. Ideally, it is a week or 2. And then you chunk down the goals again to daily achievable milestones, so that you get a sense of achievement and happiness by doing the things, and that can speed up the process. Plus, ideas flows from within. So your developers will come with ideas. You don't have to spoon feed them from the top level. Okay, so the manager doesn't have to do any of the stuff. Developers can come up with their ideas, and they can implement their own stuff, and they will achieve the product step by step at time. And at the end of the goal, that means at the end of the sprint, you'll have a fully functional system, please. But when this system is being built incrementally, step by step, you need an automated system that will keep track of the things that are happening. And that system is the DevOps system. So there are tools that can be integrated together to form a system that is called continuous integrated system, or CI. Then when it deploys to the test systems, it's called CD, continuous deployment. Then when it goes from the internal systems to the production, that means it is available for the live public, it's called continuous delivery. And everything is triggered with a single commit. I'll show you how to do that when we get on to the hands-on exercise. So what are the advantages of it? From the business point of view, there are 3 different sections: planning and organization, then performance and culture, and measurement. Measurement is the most important of it. If you cannot measure something, you cannot optimize it. Okay, you should have some statistics on basis of which you can choose to tweak the things. So with SDLC and DevOps, there are a bit of differences. Like with batch size, SDLC develops a complete software in one single chunk. DevOps can split it down into small achievable goals. Okay, with organization, it is a skill-centric silos where you have people teamed up for phases, and their skills are generally teamed up together. But with DevOps, you do not concentrate on the skills, the commonly skilled people, but you instead bring all the people together in a team which can talk horizontally. The communication is horizontal, and they can share the knowledge between one another, and they can achieve the goals in a better, efficient manner. And everything happens parallelly. So whenever you do a testing, there is some another thing being developed, okay, or some another block of code that is being released at the same time. When this is happening, you know, you get a better picture of what's happening across the complete organization step by step. And you know that today the code that I'm developing would be going through these stages. Tomorrow I should be able to answer what's working, what's not working. So people have a sense of responsibility and ownership of the things that they are doing with DevOps. during the scheduling thing, SDLC is all centralized, whereas DevOps, it is decentralized and distributed across different people, and they are responsible for the jobs, and it happens continuously in continuously achievable small goals. At release, it is a very high risk event because you're testing a complete software. If it fails, complete work that you have done over a year or maybe even more than that is at stake at that point. It works or it doesn't work. There is no third way out. But with DevOps, it's not an event, because since you're releasing continuously, you do it every day. You do it with very small achievable targets that you develop. Okay, and that happens continuously. So it's like no big deal. We release all the time. Information is disseminated. It is all documented in some place, and people generally refer to it as a reference point. But with DevOps, it is actionable. All the information that you have are either notifications to do some actions, so whether it is a failure notification, whether it is a success notification, whether it is a release notification that is happening, or there are some issues with the code. Everything is continuously being thrown at you, so you know what has to be done. The culture is do not fail. It is a highly pessimistic system. Okay, they try to prevent the failures by at the very last testing the whole system up. But with DevOps, it says fail early. It is optimistic about what the developers are contributing. Okay, and the things are being tested at every level. So we are optimistic that the code won't fail. If it has to be failing, it has to fail early. The metrics has to be a very strong point here. In SDLC, the cost and capacity are decided beforehand. Okay, with DevOps, cost and capacity are still discussed beforehand, but there is very little chance of it going beyond the statistics that you have probably predicted for the particular system. Along with that, even the time is calculated, and the time is always maintained at daily achievable goals. So it is just like achieving small pieces at a time in a very controlled fashion, where you know that I should be able to achieve it on a daily basis. If you try to target a big goal at the very end, that means I should be able to achieve it in 1 month, you are probably doing some planning wrong. Okay, one cannot perfectly guarantee that I should be able to achieve this in 1 month, exactly 1 month, or 18 to 30 days of time. That is not achievable goal. That is not realistic. When you define done, in SDLC it says I did my job. So that's the cultural defect where people start blaming one another. He says that I did my job perfectly, now it's your headache, it had moved to another phase and you need to take care of it. Whereas in DevOps, it's a team effort. It goes in chunks and everyone knows what's going to happen next. Okay, and the end product is actually an artifact that is ready to deploy. And it happens continuously every day. You don't have to wait for a complete software to be developed. So what IT benefits is, this is a small survey from Rackspace this year. And with DevOps, the benefits that IT can reap out is that 44 faster time to market a new software releases, because it doesn't overdo the time schedule. Moreover, you're releasing your application in incremental fashion. So you gather the clients earlier. And since it is continuous, you release continuously, so you don't have to waste time planning for the release ahead. Okay, so that saves a lot of time. 44% improved application stability, since you are releasing everything in a very controlled fashion and releasing continuously. So people are very used to this release stuff that has been done. 34% reduced IT cost. I told you how it saves the time, and based on the time, it also saved the cost, right? 45% more innovation. It has been found that when people are given the right to do the things on their own, instead of telling them how to do it, just tell them what to do. Okay, and it nurtures innovation in big companies. So the companies like Google, Facebook, Seagate, or Flipkart, for this reason, the startups that we have seen. Okay, So these companies have agile methodologies implemented. 44% ability has been seen to respond quickly to the business requirements, because since at every level we have quick notification systems that can provide you with actionable notifications or actionable items, you have better response times and better turnaround times as well. If someone reports you a bug, you know that the bug can be fixed and can be released in a day because you release every day. 17% businesses recognizes the value IT can add to their businesses. These days, none of the businesses out there which has a global scope can run without internet. And when we talk of internet, we talk of IT infrastructure, right? And 17% of the businesses that were considered during this survey told that they recognize the value DevOps can add to their IT setup. But that was about the IT. During the development, what's the benefit the business can reap out of the DevOps? And that's the only thing where your superiors would be concentrating at. So it's the 57% increased customer conversion or satisfaction. Now, what leads to customer conversion and satisfaction? Speed, better ability for fixing the things, good turnaround times. Okay, so and better turnaround times for customizations. So if you have faster systems that you achieve, that you develop daily and release daily, you can achieve customizations and modifications at very less time. You know that the system is not complete and it's easy to make the changes to it at any stage possible. It reduces IT infrastructure spend by 57%. Now how that is done is, when we talk of DevOps, it's not only about the proper tools, but it's also about the infrastructure. So these days, people are all jumping towards virtualization and the concepts like the containers or the VM machines or infrastructure as a service that AWS provides. Okay, so you don't have to set up all your systems all by your own. You can use a virtualized container or a VM machine from AWS and you can start running the things. Most of the startups do the same thing. They try to depend on the systems that are already available in the market instead of setting up all of their infrastructure all by their own. It increases the sales. When you are having a system that is highly responsive, it has good turnaround times, you have a good speed, you can cut down on infrastructure costs, you can spend it on your marketing, and that can increase the sales. Okay, it increases the employee engagement. When they have the ownership, they have the feeling of being connected to the code, to the product that they are developing. It increases the employee engagement. It does not waste the time. They do not doodle around things, figuring out what has to be done next. They have the innovative mindset, and they do their work all by their own. It reduces the application downtime or failure rates by 49%. Now, how that is achieved? When you release every day, that is no biggie for you. You are doing it every day, right? So you know the tricks, the failure points, the precautions that has to be taken, and it reduces the application downtime and failure rates. Increasing customer engagement can be explained as in the amount of speed that you have, the responsiveness of your website, the speed at which your website responds back to the customers. That is a very important thing when you develop a highly interactive website for e-commerce or your customers. Let's say if the website takes 5 seconds of time to load a page, your customers will not be willing to look at your website or to wait for even 5 seconds to look at the product listing. They will jump to some another sites and it will cost you money. Okay, so the wider businesses has not seen measurable benefits from DevOps. The wider businesses, as in the businesses that are not only dependent on internet, but they are working without the internet, like the transport businesses or maybe some courier service businesses that has a lot of things to do with the field work. Okay, so that was a 3%, and 2% people said that it's too early to say. They need some more interaction with the DevOps. But overall, we see that business can have a very big impact because of implementing of DevOps. So why is DevOps being adopted? Because of the impact it's having on IT, because the impact it's having on the businesses, and the Gartner says that about 25% of the global 2,000 companies are expected to adopt DevOps by 2016. And I've already started witnessing it since 2014. And I've seen a lot of companies being adopting DevOps. The big clients where I work, these people are adopting DevOps like crazy. They're spending a lot on it, and they are hiring engineers who can help them set up the things for them. And this market is going to be close to 2.3 billion by end of this year. That means end of 2015. It's hardly 5 more months to go. So definitely it's in demand. And the jobs, 66% of IT managers have implemented DevOps practices in their own organizations. And those who have not, among those people, 79% of people, that is almost 3/4 of people, would be implementing this DevOps thing in their organizations by 2015. So it does not mean that they would be setting up all the fancy tools that are available in market. It just means that to impart continuous development, continuous testing, proper test cases, and continuous deployment to the production, that should be the primary goal. Okay. So you can do it using small scripts. You can simply use Jenkins server to do some automation for you. So let's understand what DevOps is exactly. So like I said, it is a team of people who knows about all the areas, okay, but they are not the experts. They don't have to be the experts. One expert from one team can impart knowledge to the other people and bring them to its own levels. But the stuff is, you should know if something goes wrong, whom to contact, where to look for the errors, how to escalate it, and how to fix it. Okay, instead of blaming other people, you should have information and knowledge about the things, how to reproduce it, and how to help someone else with fixing those things again. Okay, if that can be done properly, then you can get around the problems and fix them in a really small amount of time, instead of wasting time and figuring out people and tell them what it is, and they should be able to again reproduce it, right? So that's the biggest thing when you are looking forward to fixing the problems. Let's take a use case of DevOps. Until now, we have seen regarding the culture, regarding this the development stuff that has to be done, the benefits of it, but there is another part to it. It's called scalability. Now, the big companies are taking up DevOps mainly not only because of the quality and the speed it imparts to development and testing, but also due to its capability of scaling things horizontally. So let's take an example of some card.com. They plan to have a big billion sale day where on that particular day, they are expecting that their daily traffic would be 10 times more than what they expect on a routine day. Now, for this thing to be ready, let's say they are having 100 different servers, and 100 servers are capable of serving 10,000 requests concurrently. But if the traffic surges, if new traffic comes in, what should they do to take in that traffic? They should be able to serve it, right? People should not waste their time looking at the loading pages or blank pages. Definitely, if you have more customers, it's good that you have more customers, but you should also be able to serve them, right? So how does DevOps help you? So like I said in the very beginning, DevOps also contains the tools that help you in configuration, that helps you in setting up the systems. One of the systems is called auto elastic scaling system, where you trigger some of the scripts that can generate you, that they can generate some more VMs or some more machines on the cloud providers that we have. So that's one of the aspects of it. So let's say on a busy day, I would be having 10,000 capacity to serve 10,000 people or 10,000 concurrent connections. But what if a new connection comes in? Would I be able to serve it? Right? So the question is that the answer would be whether I keep it in buffer and wait for the previous connections to be released, or I increase my infrastructure. But if I want to increase my infrastructure, that should be done at a minute's notice. I shouldn't be wasting hours to configure that, right? So these days, you know that you must be aware of VMs, virtual machines that we can spin up, and all the cloud providers does the same. So we can reserve a few VMs there, or at the very last moment, we can arrange for a new VMs when you want to scale up. So let's say you want to scale up your infrastructure 3x times. You add 200 more machines to the software pool, and you should be able to serve all the traffic that you are expecting in. And once you're done with the traffic, serving the traffic, you can again scale down. You can kill all those instances and pay only for the part that you have used. So that would be awesome, right? You are not worried about paying your electricity bills or the cooling sections in your data centers, or paying for the bandwidth, or setting up dummy systems around there. When you actually need 100 machines, why would you be setting up 300 machines just for handling traffic surge once a year or once a month, right? That makes sense. So to reduce the costs, we never do that kind of things. We only purchase the part which we are expected to use on daily basis. Otherwise, we go towards the cloud providers. These days, people don't even buy their own infrastructure. They rely on the cloud providers for each and every IT infrastructure requirement of their organization. Okay, so that's how DevOps can help you. That is all done automatically. No manual intervention is required. So DevOps is not about tools, it's about automation. Whatever you use, your end target should be the things like, if you see if you see anything in your organization related to IT, of course, and development, that is repeated at least twice or thrice a day, you should be able to automate it using some scripts. If that scripts are big enough, people like to call it as tools. If they are also having administrative controls, which you can control from the screen, it would be a good software, right? So you can scale up build your own software and make it available for public. That's how people build different things like Puppet and Chef. Then they made it public. They kept some parts for themselves as enterprise editions. That's completely up to the business requirements of these people. You can do it yourself as well. So you have seen that SDLC actually takes time, right? Phase-wise development would take a lot of time, and the process would be manual. With DevOps, since everything is automated, it is quick. It is done in parallel, and it can also help us to provision different servers. Now, some people might be using Salt, Ansible, some might be using Chef. It depends what service you use. Some people like to go with Puppet for setting up their infrastructure right. So about the careers, well, everyone out here is looking for the career opportunity, and that might be one of the prime reasons why we are looking forward to gaining knowledge about this field, right, DevOps. So with the industries, the technology industry, that means the IT industry, is the one that is actually benefiting a lot from DevOps. Using this, people are targeting to have lower number of people or engineers in their company, but still achieving maximum productivity out of it. The public, that means the users to engineers ratio, is generally very high in the company which has evolved and which has adopted to DevOps. For an example, take example of Twitter. A few years back, when Twitter was serving more than 1 million users in its infant stage, it was being executed only by 20 to 25 different engineers, maybe even less than that. And these days they are scaling up. So that's the kind of ratio that you can have. Okay, the figures might not be exact, but still you can take an example of it. So that's the benefit. With the DevOps roles, you can have a different kind of roles that are mentioned on the slides. You can take a look at it. But generally, the terms that are being searched on the job engines, it's DevOps. So the DevOps engineers have a whooping score of 31.3%, and these many. That is the percentage of the people who work in different DevOps roles. Now, let me chunk it down for you in different sections according to skills. So DevOps has got different sections. You could be a release engineer, you could be a scripting engineer, you could be a Linux expert, you could be a continuous integration expert, you could be a tooling integration expert or a configuration manager. And there are also roles which are very much tool specific, like a Jenkins expert or a Puppet engineer, or there is even a post called chef engineer. Or if you know all of these all together, you would be called a DevOps engineer. And then you can like go up and down the stream depending on at what level you work. Okay, the entry point would be a simple DevOps engineer onto this career path. So according to the job trends, it all started, the official job started from 2011. Now at 2015, you can see an exponential rise in the amount of jobs that are available for DevOps positions. Okay, so it clearly shows that many people need DevOps engineers in their companies these days. And the skill set that is required is generally a few tools, a strong exposure to programming, any programming skills, okay, so that you can customize the stuff, you can integrate the tools, or you can build your own if none of the tools out there suits your requirements. That is the prime requirement for a DevOps engineer. Or if you are looking at very specific sections in DevOps, like I said, release engineer or chef engineer, in that case, you will need to master one of the tools that is available for public online, or which is extensively being used across the market. Okay, so if you're planning to take any of the courses with Edureka, we are covering up the tools like Jenkins and then Maven. We also have Puppet, we also have Docker in place. Okay, so there are a few other tools. You can go through the curriculum and figure it out. And the salaries, well, earlier, before even this graph, the salaries were like on the range of, for a general engineer, it would be $40,000 to $50,000 back in 2011, 2010. Now, during this year at 2015, engineer in US is generally earning somewhere between $100,000 to $130,000 with 401k benefits for him. So that's a cool thing, right? You don't have to be at senior most levels, but average DevOps engineer would be earning that much. Of course, with an experience more than 5 or like about 5 and more than 5 years of experience. If you are starting off with a career, it's still a nice payout. So if you're talking of in terms of Indian salary, that means taking the expenses and the earnings in account, it would be almost a payout of 8 to 10 at level of 1 year of experience, and with the experience of more than 5 years, 5 to 7 years, you might be earning somewhere close to 20, 25 in an average company. I'm not talking of the companies like Amazon or Symantec or some companies like Quickheal or even Flipkart. They have their own levels of DevOps engineers. So apart from this, if you're willing to really shine your career with DevOps, you should be also looking into programming, algorithm and data structures, so that you can earn a really maybe a good salary beyond what was designated on slides. Okay, so some of the companies where this all DevOps started Of course, it started off with Google, but it never made it public until Twitter did it in 2009. And then we saw that it was actually being used across all the big giants who went through the problems, solved them, and some were even generous to expose their problems and solutions to the world, like Facebook exposed Cassandra, or we have some of the projects from NASA being ported to Apache open source projects. Okay, so that's where the DevOps community can pick up the tools that they are using. Amazon.com is the company which is really good at infrastructure DevOps and is providing services all around the globe. So with the business goals, that was the business benefits that we have seen earlier. With the business goals, according to the latest survey conducted by Rackspace, it shows that business efficiency has increased by 63% with the people who have implemented DevOps. And that's a general term. It would be closer to 63% average count taken from all the people around. 66% increase in customer satisfaction, and that's nice. Application uptime has increased by 63%. What happens is, generally when you release the application, not continuously, but whenever you do it, you require some downtime to be taken up for the maintenance, for changing the database schemas, for setting up the things right, for configuring the infrastructure, for making the changes in maybe your firewalls or something like that. It incurs some downtime. But with continuous deployment, you don't have to do or worry about it. Okay, you pre-plan for the downtimes. So 63% of uptime has been found with the applications. The business agility, or the ability to take in changes and deliver the things prominently and swiftly in time, has increased by 55%. Customer conversion has increased by 59% from the websites. Okay, the people who visit your websites, are they just visiting or they are actually paying you? That makes a huge impact to the business. People have seen 49% increase in value to the businesses through introducing new capabilities or new features in their applications. Instead of waiting for a complete application to be developed, you can introduce new changes or new features down the line and make customers happy according to that. Okay, definitely it reduces costs and it increases employees' interaction and productivity. It also increases employee satisfaction, because job satisfaction is more important than what you earn. Okay, so that's all the benefits of DevOps. So with the demo section, let me show you a small demo on how we deal with things. Like with the SDLC, you know that everything is sequential. How do we convert that from sequential into the parallel systems? Okay. So the tools that I'm using right now, I will be using SVN. I'm setting up SVN in front of you. Okay, so I have a system for which I will be spinning up a few VM machines, and on top of the VM machines, we'll be setting up an infrastructure that will help you to do development and testing in parallel. Okay, so the tools could vary depending on the organization that you have. You might be using something like Git or Mercurial or any other thing. I'm using SVN. With the continuation integration system, you might be using Jenkins, some might be using TeamCity, Travis, Bamboo, anything. The theme is it should happen continuously. Okay, for the code reviews, people might use Fabricator or Garrett, or some people like to use review board. All depends. But the phases through which the code should flow should be same everywhere. There might be a few more layers or filters through which the code passes, depending on how your organization requirements are. And based on that, you choose the tools, right? So there is no thumb rule for that. But people generally like to use the open source tools which do not have any licenses over them. Generally, the open source licenses like the GPL2 or the Apache licenses or the MIT licenses are the ones that people generally like to use. So what I have here is a system for which I will be installing SVN. So while I prepare myself for the demo, If you have any questions, you may raise your hands, or you can type in your questions. I can answer those things. Or if you want to talk with me, you can raise your hands. I can unmute you, so we can speak. You can also share your ideas. So, Mr. Reddy, I have unmuted you. Do you have a question? All right. So I have a SPL system, SPL machine, but that is a fresh machine that I have created just now. In my infrastructure, I would be requiring some systems like DHCP, DNS to be set up. Now, these are also the part of what a DevOps engineer should be knowing. Okay, it's not a thumb rule. Definitely, your organizational requirements would be differing, but in a nutshell, automation is what we require. When you talk of infrastructure, we also talk of networks, right? You need to set up some networks, you need to assign some IP addresses, you should be knowing of subnetting. It's all good to have knowledge. It's not mandatory, but it's definitely good to have. So I'm setting up SQL Server from scratch. I already have a Jenkins machine running. Okay, so it's just a matter of installing a few packages, and Jenkins would be up and running on your system. So don't worry about the details of things. But we have a question. Shanta asks that, can we use VMware to practice DevOps? Yes, definitely you can use any of the virtual host providers out there. These days, containerization is really on demand and boom. So if you really want to use something that is used in production, I suggest you should use Docker. VMware's is a really good starting point. I'm using this Oracle VirtualBox because it's free. If you have the license for VMware, you can use it. Does it answer your question? You're welcome. Well, let's see how to set up SPN in a small hands-on demo. You can keep posting your questions. I'll try to answer them. So I have a question here from Dinesh. He says that he is new to DevOps. From what he's hearing, it's all about automated provisioning of VMs or hardware. What can I do from software code perspective to adopt to DevOps? Well, you are partially right, Dinesh, that it's about automated provisioning of VMs or hardware, but it's not all to that. It comes when you're talking of automated provisioning of VMs, you're jumping to the production side of it. But there's a lot more to DevOps than directly jumping to production. Code starts off from the development machine itself. So in case you are required to customize the code or contribute something to it or fix some bugs, you should be knowing a few of the programming languages or any of the programming language that your organization is using. During this course, we will be teaching you Python and also shell scripting. So that should help you be comfortable with different requirements of customizations that you might be facing in your organization. Does it answer your question? Or if I'm not getting a question, can you elaborate it more? Okay, so let's jump to SVN setup. What I'm doing right now is let's update the system first. Well, Dinesh says that since the question was what can he do from software code perspective, he has added some more information that he has an existing J2EE application and he's trying to see what he can do to migrate. Right, migration as in migration from J2EE to different language altogether. Is that what you mean, Dinesh? Okay, can you please help me understand what you mean by migration? Okay, just to adopt a DevOps strategy. Well, that's good. If you have an application, you must already be been using some of the version control systems. See, with the internal DevOps structure that has to be built, of course, if you're using CVS, it's still good. You can integrate that with Jenkins, like the way I'm going to do with SVN. Okay, and you can adapt to the strategy of continuously integrating the things that whenever you develop something, you should automatically pass through a few checks and automatically get deployed somewhere. Okay, that can be done as initial step. So DevOps, it's not blindly doing any automation. It's about reaching some perfect goals. So the initial goals with the code would be to impart quality to it. Okay, so quality comes in by continuously checking the code, whether what you are doing is according to the standards. Does it meet the company requirements? Is it syntactically right? Whether it would build properly? So all these questions can be answered by implementing proper checks, and checks can be set up as build steps in Jenkins. So I'll show you practically how that is done. You're welcome, Dinesh. Shanta asks that how many GB of disk space is required to install DevOps? Well, Shanta, DevOps is not a software, right? It's a practice. It's a culture. So that you would be setting up at any of the companies that you're working. So for the tools, definitely the tools comes in with the different flavors and they have their own requirements. So based on the requirements, you will have to go through the documentation of the tool that you are trying to set up. Okay, and based on that, you can figure out how much amount of resources are required for any of the system. Okay, so there is no thumb rule for that. If you're talking of general VMs that I'm using here for demo purposes, my system is a 12 GB system. It is 2.4 gigahertz i5 processor, and I can spin up almost 20 different machines on it. You can see on the left hand side that there are a lot of machines, and I can start all of them at once, and I will still not have any of the drag on the machine. So that should be sufficient for you, like, for practicing purposes. So I have some hands up here. Well, Sandeep, I'm unmuting you. If you have a question, you can ask.
Hi, may I know what all is being covered in the DevOps course from Edureka? Do you cover latest technologies like Docker and Kubernetes?
Docker has been covered. Kubernetes is not covered.
Okay.
Regarding the other tools, we start up with Jenkins, cover a few network concepts. DHCP, DNS setups, or NFS file sharing is covered as well. And then we jump to Jenkins, setting it up with SVN and Git. Both of them are covered, and GitHub is covered at the very last practical sessions. End-to-end system is developed in the last practical final session, so that you know a complete code flow, how it moves through the things. For the scripting, we cover Python and Bash scripting. From virtualization point of view, we cover Zen, KVM, then VirtualBox, also VMware. So that are covered from type 2 kind of virtualization. From type 1, there is a hardware limitation, so we cover only the theory part. You will not see the the systems like AWS or OpenStack setup, all from the scratch. That will not be, unfortunately, that cannot be demoed during this classes. But theoretically, everything would be covered on that part as well.
Okay, thank you, Ashish.
You're welcome. So I have another hand raised here. Mr. Muniraj Raju, I would be unmuting you. If you have any questions, you may ask.
Yeah, okay. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
So concept all over DevOps. So will it be specific to the customer, or will it be specific to the testing engineers, or it will be specific to Alpha? How the overall picture comes?
Well, it is not specific to any of the streams that you belong to. Everything is being taught from scratch. Okay, so there have been many people who belong to different streams. Like we have got testers, we have got people who are just know coding. We have got people from system admin background who don't know coding or testing at all. They just know how to fire some commands. But still, it's all good. We start everything from scratch, and there is no prerequisite that is being taken into consideration. Okay, we know that people are coming in from scratch, but they should belong to IT. They should know what's happening, even if they are lacking on skills. It's okay. We are here to learn the skills, but they should have a fair understanding of what code is, how development is done, what testing is, how the code flows, and what are the requirements of different stuff that we are learning here. That's the only prerequisite that's required.
Okay, but I mean, how the overall picture of DevOps comes in, not in the specific to Eureka.
Well, I'm still not getting a question. Can you please elaborate more?
Meaning, think about Amazon. So, how they started to do? Will it be specific to their QA first, and then will it be specific to the customer second? How it will be done?
Well, I'm still not getting it. I'm sorry for that. If you can start from the very beginning, I should be able to understand and answer it well.
So we are talking about the entire concept of DevOps. So in that, suppose if you want to be part of an organization which is going to be implementing the DevOps concept only inside R&D, okay, only inside R&D.
Okay.
So and then when it goes to customer, it will be in a separate mode of release. It can be packed into a CD, it can be given as downloads, can be any other thing. So how it has been started and how it will be focused in future.
Right. See, DevOps is not an end product, or it will not change what you are delivering to the customers. When you transition your company or your product to be built on top of DevOps kind of process, it is a process that we are implementing. So it will speed up your internal development process, plus the value that it adds to the testing and the quality of code that you develop, that would be enhanced. Okay, the process starts from the developer machine itself, and step by step you go onwards, or you automate the stuff towards production. It does not start from other way around. It starts from the developer machine, it goes to the production systems. And to the clients, what we deliver is good value in terms of speed, response times, better turnaround times, better response times. That's what the end product is for your clients. Okay, so that's what DevOps is. Yes. So it's a process that we are setting up. Okay, you're welcome. So I have another, I see another hand raised here. Mr. Chandrasekhar, I'm unmuting you. You may ask your question.
Hi. See, I just wanted to continue with that previous question which he asked. So Probably the question is when you are moving into DevOps. See, I was involved in this total SDLC, and we were practicing agile method, where
Okay.
we release small batches of code every time, and it will be tested and go back to the production, and again we will introduce new code. So it's like
Okay.
releasing the scripts in patches, small patches. So
Right.
if we are moving into DevOps, so how it will be differentiate and how this will be done? Means what difference it will make actually? Because
Well,
already
the difference it will make is, yeah, go on.
no, what I'm saying is already what we are doing is we are introducing, I mean, developing something small, and it will be tested immediately, and it will be moved to production, and again we'll do the small development, and so this will be a cycle. I think this is almost the DevOps what you are saying. So in this, if we are going to adapt to DevOps, what difference it will make, or how what are the things we need to do?
Well, the difference would be currently you're developing something in small chunks, okay, and then you test it, okay. So
Yeah.
you are actually repeating the SDLC, but the duration of SDLC is short. If I understand your question right, correct?
Yeah, oh, yeah, right.
Right. So here in DevOps, we are not repeating the SDLC. We are doing parallel. We are doing the stuff in parallel manner. So your requirement gathering plus your development and your testing all is done in parallel. The major impact where DevOps will help is, see, testing is generally done at the very end. Unless and until you develop, you cannot test, right?
Yeah.
But what if you continuously develop, keep on developing, and you forget about testing, right? If you forget about testing and leave testing to the machines, you can save a lot of time during that phase, which is almost equivalent to development. 50% time on development, 50% time on testing. That's what the ideal cases are. So if you can save the time by implementing this stuff on machines, that's where DevOps can bring value to your systems. So we are doing this in parallel. What I mean is, if I'm writing a single line of code and I'm ready to commit, that single line of code should go get tested, get built. Okay, that we are not talking of a complete feature here. We are talking of continuous deployment continuous development. Anything that a developer is ready to commit should go through the entire process without even worrying about who is going to test it, or who is going to deploy it, or who is going to view it later on. Okay, that should happen continuously and automatically. That's what DevOps will help you with.
So this is basically automation of the testing.
Not exactly. It is one of the part of DevOps.
So
but
when we
automation
develop,
testing is very important. Yes.
okay. So when we develop a line of code, that will be immediately evaluated or tested. That's what you're saying in the developer end
Exactly.
itself.
Right.
Okay. So once the development is complete, it will be testing completed also.
Yes. Of course, you cannot remove the possibility of manual testing. It has to be there. But anything that you can automate, you should be able to automate.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is we are already using SVN, and SVN, my understanding is a version control tool.
Right.
And we already use that. So will using the SVN itself make our process DevOps, or
No. It's one of the tools. What I'm saying is, yes, we are here for automating the things. SVN does not impart any automation. It is just history storage. It will store your history, and it will help you track who did what. It wouldn't automate anything.
Okay, that was my question. So when we use a package of all these tools, then it will become, then DevOps will be implemented.
Yeah, but it's all up to you whether you use tools or whether you go with writing your own scripts.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I have another question here from Dinesh, any prerequisites for your perspective, from your perspective, that would help us in understanding or understanding the course better? Well, I already answered that, Dinesh. I hope you got that. So I do not need any prerequisites from you guys unless and until you just understand what the complete IT thing is, what happens in the company. Okay, and we'll be concentrating on how to automate that, and all the skills would be taught to you from scratch, so you don't have to worry about it. You can be from any background. I have another question here. He says that, so Mr. Amit says, so TDD and BDD is a part of DevOps as well. Well, Amit, can you please help me understand what TDD and BDD is? What do you mean by that? If you want to talk, you can also raise your hand. Yes, TDD means test-driven development. Yes. So when we're talking of automation testing, when you're talking of automation as at the very first, we can definitely integrate that using some Jenkins or some scripts. But you should have some test cases. That is the first point. Okay. So test-driven development is one of the chunks of complete DevOps process. If you don't have test-driven development, or you don't have automation tests in first place, that cannot impart a better value to your complete DevOps process. Because the thing is, ultimately you need to deploy something on the production, and unless and until you are very much sure that everything has been properly tested, you cannot deploy it, right? And we don't need to have manual steps in between the complete automation system. That's why this can definitely be a part of DevOps. I have another question here. What's the major difference between Puppet and Chef? Well, both of them are configuration management systems. Puppet did it first, Chef did it better. Both of them are in Ruby, but the difference only is the way they are implemented and the features that they let out for public. So the interfaces on both of these tools are different. Okay, but the underlying architecture is one and the same. So there is no big major difference. You can go with any one of these, whatever you like. We have another question here. Satish asks that, may I know what the work of Puppet and Chef and what is the difference between these two? Well, the work is the same. It manages the configuration. When I talk of managing the configuration, it will configure the machines, that means physical boxes for you according to your requirements. Okay, so let's say you're spinning up new machine, and that machine has to be configured for deploying your code. Now, usually you'd be setting up all the softwares like I'm doing right now. I'm setting up SVN, and it's taking me a lot of time, right? So instead of wasting my time here on setting up SVN, I could probably write a script that would do that for me. And that script could be written very well in Puppet or Chef. Okay, and Puppet and Chef can configure that stuff for me all by themselves without even me wasting a lot of time typing the stuff. Okay, that's what Puppet and Chef would be used for. So we have another question from Anuj. Are there any tools available for continuous integration of database code? Oh, that's interesting. With database code, you'll have to do some manual tweaking, like some manual stuff has to be done along with the automation. Not all of the databases would play nice with continuous changes. Okay, the schema changes are not always favorable and not always, I cannot suggest you to make the changes to database continuously. There are a few thumb rules that has to be taken care of, like deletion of fields should not happen most of the times. If they are done, you'll have to take care that the scripts are written for that, and everything goes along with code. So your code and database changes should go hand in hand for DevOps to implement on relational databases. For non-relational databases, like Cassandra or Big Data, you can release the changes according to your DevOps architecture. There you don't have to worry about continuous integration of these things. They can easily be handled as you handle the code. Okay, so there is no problem. For the applications using Oracle specifically, I'm not sure about that PLSQL thing, but definitely that should be something like dumping an SQL file, which can be committed into your SVN. And if it can be committed into SVN, you can prepare a tool that can implement the same SQL over different databases. But definitely there has to be a thumb rule on what you implement and when you implement. Okay, like setting up indexes in between busy day is not a good decision to make. Of course, it can be done, but it will definitely result in a few minutes of downtime, if not a few seconds, right? So that's completely up to you how big your application and how you choose to deal with a particular problem. Does it answer your question, Anuj? Thank you. We have another question from Muniraj Raju. I'm already a part of a CM build and release deployment and installation developer and code quality extra. Should I code me as DevOps? But I have less knowledge on tools, whatever you said. Well, if you already know about SCM build and release deployment and installation, you are already working as a DevOps engineer. Okay, so you don't need to worry about the tools. The tools keep on changing based on organizations. Well, I'm unmuting you. Mr. Muniraj Raju, you can talk to me if you want.
Okay, so the all-over presentation and your explanation was very good. I should first tell that. And then I said that everything I'm working is a DevOps engineer now. So the tools, whatever you say, how long it will take a common man to understand? I mean, whatever I'm already working on those things.
So if you're already working on it, you already know the concepts of DevOps, right? It's all about learning the tools. So I can bring you up to a level where you can start customizing and developing the stuff with the tools and implementing it in your organization. And apart from that, gaining the experience is all up to you. Like the more you work, more you use the things, more you will be knowing about it, right? We cannot move you or impart you the knowledge of a person who already knows the tools 5 or 6 years experience at that level, right? You understand that. So I can bring you up to a level where you can start understanding and implementing things.
Yeah. But the concept, whatever you're telling, the continuous delivery and continuous things, but I'm working on this separately, but I don't have a continuous integration and the continuous deployment going on there. No customer want to implement these things. So how do I get knowledge in that?
Well, I would be covering that in the course. So not only the tools, we are not only targeting the tools, but we are also targeting the transition-based stuff that is required for a company to move from non-DevOps to DevOps. Along with that, we would be also covering up the cultural stuff that is required for a proper DevOps transition and DevOps building good DevOps teams, structural changes that are required for the company to go through, and of course the tools that would be required for different phases in DevOps.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, there is another question from Amit. Can you put some light between differences between the Docker and containers? Well, containers are the building block of a software called Docker. So Docker is a software that uses containers to run your processes. Right? Containers are an isolated units that depends on your underlying kernel architecture that is generally common across different Linux flavors. So keeping away the features that are built on top of the kernels, Docker would use the kernel that your system uses, and on top of it, it would be running a few processes in isolation. That means the process would be using the underlying resources, but it cannot disturb the resources that are being used by any other system, any other process. So usually what happens in production is, generally we have one server dedicated to one single process. So instead of having a complete operating system with all its processes and memory management and systems, all those things running on top of it, which generally take 30 to 40% of the resources by the operating system itself, and on top of it, you simply run one single server like DNS or DHCP that usually takes one single process, right? So it doesn't make sense to waste all the resources in only spinning up an operating system. Okay, that's where containers come in. You do not spin up an operating system, you only are worried about getting the kernel resources, and on top of it, only one single process is executed. That's the benefit of it, and that's why people are moving from virtual machines to Docker these days. Docker is an application that uses containers. They are not on the same platform. Containers were there since the beginning. It started off with Solaris when they started creating parallel operating systems. Okay, and then it moved to Linux and they started creating LXC containers with that. And using those LXC containers, Docker is using those LXC containers to provide you with isolation between the processes. That's what it is. Does it answer your question, Amit? We have another question here from Satish. He was from Embedded Systems. How can he use either Chef or Puppet? He has knowledge on build and release and was already trained on it. So is there any chances that we can use either Chef or Puppet? Definitely. Puppet is being covered up in the course. I'm not sure about Chef, but if you get hold of Puppet, you can definitely do the configuration management. I have a question from Dinesh. With DevOps, can we manage the platform, not just the VM? For example, I need to create a VM with a WebSphere application server 8.x and a SQL Server database 2012 on it. Yeah, definitely. The tool that you would be using for this is Puppet or Chef, anything that you would be using. Okay, that's what I'm saying, that I'm currently installing SVN on my system. And while I'm doing this, I'm tapping a lot of things. Instead of that, you can simply create a script that will spin up a machine for you, install the softwares on top of it, and get the system ready for direct using. Okay, so you don't have to configure the step all by yourself. You can do it once, write a script for it, and the tools can take care of it for you. Or you can even create an image that will have these softwares pre-installed, and you can create as many copies as you want of that software. Okay, so that can be achieved with DevOps. We have another question here from Mr. Chandrasekhar. Are there any tools that are used in DevOps freeware? Well, yes, SVN is one. Most of the tools in DevOps that people use these days are freewares. They are available as open source systems. Let me tell you a few that there are open source versions of Chef, Puppet, Jenkins, SVN. Git is also open source. Nagios, which is monitoring software, is open source. The one we will be covering Nagios as well during the session. For logging and log analysis, Logstash is open source. For database storage, Cassandra is open source. Postgres is open source. So majority of the software that we'll be covering up, that all of the software that we are covering up here in the course are open source, and they are free to use. Okay, people, do you have any more questions coming up? You're welcome. So I think we can wind up for the day. Most of the questions have been answered. If you still have any questions, you can get back to us on mail or with the support systems that we have. Okay, you can connect with us on the mails. You can connect with the people at Edureka. They are friendly people. They can help you out with the stuff, or you can forward your questions that you want me to answer. Okay, so it can definitely help you understand the different stuff that haven't been covered in this session if you have more questions about it. So definitely it is bound to replace the traditional SDLC. People are giving up the SDLC. They are taking up different approaches like rapid application development or a mix of different application development models, except the SDLC part, and all of them can be implemented in Agile in DevOps. Okay, so that's how we would be doing things these days, and with DevOps as well. So when you leave, there is going to be a small survey. You can fill up the things if you like. This is a session. And your answers have been, your questions have been answered. You can fill up the survey for us so that we can do the things better next time. For the classes that are being starting on August 8th, I will be taking up the class from 8th of August. That is coming week. Okay, for Dinesh, this was for you. Thanks a lot for attending this session. We'll be winding it up in a few minutes. So if you still have any questions, you can still post it here. I'm here for another 7 minutes, and I'm open to answering your questions. Well, I have a question here from Mr. Reddy. Cloud is also a part of DevOps. Yes, cloud is a part of DevOps. It is an infrastructure that cloud is just infrastructure support. Okay, so if you don't have any physical infrastructure of yours, you can hire it from the cloud. But the DevOps processes are going to be one and the same. Either you configure it on the physical machines or you configure it on the VMs. Okay, the rest of the things will be same. Only the part where scaling is being considered, where you scale up the systems horizontally at a minute's notice. VMs can be scaled up very rapidly. Physical boxes cannot. That's the only plus point of cloud. It's also cheap. We have a question from Mr. Chandrasekhar. Is there any specific tool for automating the testing? Well, there are a lot of tools that are used for automating the tests. Now, based on which language you use, there might be a different test suite that you might be using. Okay, so it depends. I have a question from Mr. Muniraj Raju. Does Chef support only auto deployment of web application, or we can do any Windows installation and run the auto test on it? We can do any Windows MSI installation using Chef. It supports all the operating system, most of the operating systems that are used in production these days. Okay. Only problem with Chef is that the core installation of Chef has to be done on 64-bit Linux machine. Okay, and these days the core that it requires, the kernel that it requires is 3.2. So you need to make sure that the Chef server is installed on proper machine. Chef clients can be installed on all the operating systems out there. There is another question from Avdesh. I have done RHEL7 including storage, RHCVA, and what would be the covered concept except these? Well, I'm not specifically covering any of the Linux operating systems, but only the part that is required for implementing the tools and carrying out your DevOps day-to-day operations would be covered. With RHCVA, I'm not, that's definitely going to be helpful, but I'm not covering any of these concepts here. Okay, except that we'll be covering the tools. That's the main goal of the course. Another question is, does the DevOps development requires testing phase? Well, yes, testing is an integral phase of the complete SDLC cycle, right? So testing cannot be left out of DevOps. It has to be automated so that people do not waste time testing the things. When we are committing 1,000 times a day, let's say a team of 20 people is committing 10 times a day, it is going to be 200 times a day. So people cannot keep on continuously testing the things 200 times, right? It has to be automated somehow. Is network a part of DevOps? This is a question asked by Mr. Biswajit. Yes, networking is part of DevOps, but not networking at the level of Cisco people or CCNA people. We will be covering some concepts like DNS, DHCP, setting up the things, providing IP addresses, what are subnets and how they are classified, how to set up things and set up the networks between the machines so that they can talk between one another. We are also going to cover up the stuff like setting up firewalls and server hardening. Okay, so that is what is going to be covered up. It's good to know information for a DevOps professional, but if you have a team, dedicated team that works on networking, you don't need to worry about it. You can get the things done with their help. We have another question here. Chef only supports 25 machines deployment for free, right? And limitations on the open license. Well, there are limitations with the open source license. That's their business. That's the way they carry out the business. If you are willing to use Chef, you will have to pay it. Pay for it. Well, this is true with Puppet as well. I'm not sure of any of the system out there that helps you do this orchestration for n number of machines for complete free of cost. Sorry for that. But that's the way these people carry on their businesses. Nothing can be done about it. Well, one last thing. I just want to show you that the stuff that we did here, installed SVN, it actually works. Let's check. Well, we have a question here. It's a nice question. Will the DevOps tool help in updating the dependencies when the code is released? Well, this is a really nice question, and it generally bugs the engineers during the maintenance phases. That can be done. That can really be controlled in very nice fashions, where you can set up primary and secondary servers, test everything on the secondary ones, and then move the updates and changes onto the primary in a very controlled fashion. And Puppet can help you do exactly that, what you are willing to do. Even Chef has provision for rolling out the dependencies later on. With coding, for example, like the example that you shared, suppose if a table structure that is used in Oracle script is updated, of course, you can do the changes on the fly. Not just softwares have been changed, but you can also roll out the scripts that can fire some commands on the systems and make them in line according to your requirements. During or after the deployment, whatever the case might be, it can be done. Avdesh asks that what is the duration of the course and fees for the course? Well, Avdesh, it is already mentioned on the website, and I think I might not be the right person to talk regarding the management kind of issues. So you can connect with Edureka people or visit the website for more information about it. Another question is, how does the code developing and testing is done parallelly on DevOps? Well, let's take an example that we have SVN in place and there is Jenkins in place. Jenkins is a software that handles your automation stuff, and SVN is the software that helps you with getting the history of anything that is being developed, right? So I'm a developer. I'm committing one small feature that has to be tested later on, and I'm going to release it, right? So I'm committing it to the SVN. Jenkins will sense the things that are making changes to SVN. Once the change is received on Subversion or Git or CVS or anything that you use, Jenkins will pull the code from the SVN. It will test it, check it for syntax, build it again. When all these steps are right, there is no error in it, it will send me an email that everything is okay and the code is ready to be deployed. Now it can be an automated step or a manual step. If it is automated, Jenkins will trigger automatic deployment for the change that I have just committed. Okay, and that happens continuously. There is no one who is sitting there to test the code. So for testing, you need to have automation tests in place. You can also have tests like checking for syntax or preparing the documentation later on. It all can be automated in a single pipeline. Okay, and since I'm only talking of one single change, there might be 20 different people who are committing at 20 different times, and they don't have to wait for my testing to complete. Everyone can work in parallel, right? So that's how DevOps can help you achieve the things in parallel. Every developer has got their own instance and attention from the DevOps system, and they feel that they are the only one using it. So we have another question. Where can we find the recordings of the current session? Well, I'm not sure, but it has to be there on the website, or you will get it in a mail from Edureka. If not, you can connect with them and you can definitely get this recording. It is being recorded, and it should be shared with you. All right. So I think we have already exceeded our time by half an hour, almost 3 minutes. It was nice having you people here, and it really felt good answering your questions. I hope you have a great time ahead and great career too. So I leave you here with a note. Have a great day. Thank you for attending this session.